Hello and welcome to the academyofworship.org YouTube channel. My name's Chris, and it's getting hot in California. I am in shorts. Today we're talking about something I'm going to get flack about eventually. Capos. Specifically capos on electric guitar. There's two main schools of thought on the electric guitar. One is, you should never use one of these things. It's cheating. It's not really playing the electric guitar. It's not knowing what you're doing. And there's a second school of thought, one which I ascribe to. It's awesome. I'm going to be defending this point today and show you how you can use them to make things better and, yeah, easier. I don't know why people think that electric guitar should be more difficult and why you couldn't use a tool like a capo to make things a little bit easier in certain situations. Now, one thing I do want to say about capos is you should know why you're using one. You shouldn't just blindly apply it and then start playing and think that's how you should always play electric guitar. Because while I don't agree with capos are cheating, I do agree that you really should know how to play your instrument before you employ a tool like a capo, so at least you know why you're doing what you're doing. Having said that though, let's talk about a capo. What does it do? A capo does one super simple thing. It moves the guitar nut up and down the guitar neck. This allows you to play all the chords you already know and are familiar with, like G and D and A and all those fun chords down there. But you can move the nut to where all of a sudden a G isn't actually sounding a G anymore. It's sounding like an A or a B or a B flat or anything else up the neck. I've talked about capos in other videos before, how I use them to get certain voicings that would be otherwise really hard to get, and I've referred to them as what they are, a tool. You should never use them as a crutch or something to get around learning how to play electric guitar or guitar in general, but do know that they're there to help. So, how do they help? Well, let's explore it for a second. For this example, let's just say we're playing in the key of A major. And the A major we're all familiar with in first position down here on the second fret is as such. Bar across the second fret and play the middle four strings. If someone gave you a chord chart that is in the key of B major and you wanted to still play that exact chord shape without doing a full bar chord, like this, you're going to want to employ a capo, because what that does is move your nut right here up 2 frets to right here. With the capo installed, you'll see that it's right there barring the second fret for me. This allows me to play the A chord shape right here on the 4th fret, and since this is now the new nut, you get a B major, because the open string that you're playing here like you would if it was a normal A without the capo is now pushed down like a finger. That's a B. So now you get the voicing of a B major while playing a simple A chord shape. It's pretty simple in concept. There's no magic behind a capo. There are some things that you're going to want to keep in mind when applying a capo. The first thing is how to put it on. Now there's a couple of major types of capos. One that I like on electric guitar is this one. It's by Planet Waves. I'm not endorsed by them or anything like that. It has a simple screw on the back that tightens this part against this part. So you just screw this part down and it tightens on the neck. I like it because you can adjust how hard it's pushing on your strings. Because sometimes when a capo pushes too hard on the strings, it actually pulls it sharp because it's pushing too hard on the strings. The other type of capo is this kind, which is spring-loaded. You squeeze it and apply it to your neck like this. You squeeze it open, put it there, and let go, and it just has a constant force it's applying to the neck. Now, these are great on acoustic guitar because I find that acoustic guitar is a little more forgiving because you're using heavier strings. The guitar neck is a little bit thicker than electric guitar in most cases, so you can get away with the constant pressure and not have too much of a tuning issue. But I found that on electric guitar that if you use this kind of capo, it's going to pull you out of tune a lot of times. So that's why I recommend something like this where you can adjust the amount of tension it puts on the strings. Another thing to keep in mind when applying a capo is where you're physically putting it on the fret. When you're applying it, you want to put it closest to the fret wire of the fret you're putting it on. So for instance, if we're applying this to the 3rd fret, you find the 3rd fret here, and this one towards your bridge is the fret wire for fret 3. So I would apply it I wouldn't apply it back here, I would apply it up here. And if you apply just enough string pressure without pushing it too hard down, it won't pull it out of tune, and you'll find that the tuning across the strings is a little more even than if you put it right in the center of the fret. When you put it right in the center of a fret, it tends to put more string pressure and pull them sharp. So make sure when you're applying it, you put it closer to the fret wire. Now I have other videos that get into kind of how you can shape chords and some of the voicings you can get while using a capo that would otherwise be hard to get. And so I won't cover too much of that today. But another thing to keep in mind when you are using a capo is what the entirety of your part consists of. So if you're playing some chords down here to get some really pretty voicings, but you have a higher part that's a lead part, make sure that it fits between the capo and the end of the fretboard. Because if you have some parts that are actually below the capo, you're going to run into problems trying to do that, obviously. For instance, if you're using a capo up here on the 7th fret and you're using normal G voicing chords, which would put you in the key of D, because if you notice I'm playing a G here, pretending like this is my nut now. So this position right here would be a G and it would sound like this. If I have any section of my electric guitar part that is below this capo and it needs to be there, I'm going to run into problems. So either I have to put that part an octave higher or somewhere else on the neck between here and the end of the fretboard, or I need to learn that guitar part without the capo. So keep that in mind when you're using a capo on the electric guitar, that you're not eliminating frets that you need. But just know this simply moves the nut that's already on your guitar somewhere else on the guitar neck. And everything is relative to that when you're fretting it. So the main thing to keep in mind when you are using a capo is what chords you're actually playing. Not relative to the capo, although you could write your music out relative to the capo so it's easier to read. But if someone calls out an E major chord and you're capoed here on 2, you've got to know where the actual E major chord is. For instance, here you could play a D shape and it would be an E major chord. Or you could play it where you might normally play it with a bar chord up here on the 7th fret. But know that you couldn't play it like this and let these strings ring open because you have a capo here now. It's no longer an E open chord like this. So there's things to keep in mind when you're using it. What your new nut is and what relative to that are the chord names and chord sounds and chord shapes. So there's quite a bit more to it that you'll have to go into it if you've really never used a capo, but I guarantee once you do, there's a cool musical world of opportunities that opens up for you, and to be able to navigate your neck fast with a capo employed is a pretty good skill to have, whether you're playing acoustic or electric. I hope you learned something. I hope that helps you out. If you've never used a capo, that gives you an idea of what to use. And if you're an electric guitar player that's been told not to use a capo for whatever reason, ignore that. Try it out anyway. If it sounds good and is good, no one's going to care that you're using a capo. That's it. Have fun, try things out. Like I always say, go flip some switches, turn some knobs, and in this case, clamp some capos. And I'll see you in the next video. See you later.